Hello, you're watching the Anti-Social Media YouTube channel, and this is a series of videos I make called Gammon Box, where we examine the latest far-right and conservative fails of the week. Sometimes it's a daily occurrence, so do subscribe. There's lots of piss-taking out of these grifting idiots. And you join me from my office here in a greenhouse, a skanky greenhouse, because it's a little bit windy outside and you won't be able to hear me otherwise. What a life, eh? What a life. Now, a while ago, a few weeks ago, I made a video called Tommy Robinson Fleeces His Fans, where I show a little bit of evidence and make a few jokes about Tommy Robinson grifting his own supporters for his own benefit. You can watch that video by going below to the description box, and it should flash up on your screen now and maybe even at the end of the video. That video is linked to the fact that Tommy Robinson is currently in court. He's defending himself against a Syrian boy, a school child, who he attacked and allegedly, according to the latest reports, caused the Syrian boy and his family to flee after his attacks on that boy. And potentially he could end up in jail. And that reminded me of the other times he has been in jail thanks to his grift. A year or two ago, I made a podcast about that period of time, and I revealed that even behind bars, Tommy Robinson's grift continues, because it's very important for the far right to always appear victims. And while he was in prison, he felt he was under attack by people, and believe it or not, poo. Yes, it sounds strange, and you're going to listen now to something from the Anti-Social Media archives, where I make a series of jokes and observations about the time Tommy Robinson pretended, possibly, allegedly, that he was under attack from people throwing feces at him in jail. Strap in, because this is one of the funniest and also one of the most disgusting things I've ever made. And until next time, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe to Anti-Social Media and watch the entire Gammon Box series. Until then, bye-bye. Now, this podcast is titled Tommy Robinson, Preacher of Hate. I quite like that title because basically Tommy Robinson claims that all of the goddamn Muslims are the preachers of hate, when really it's projection, isn't it? Tiny Tommy Robinson, the miniature gammon that gets the bigger pieces of gammon very, very angry. Basically, anyone in Tommy Robinson's situation over the many, many years, couple of decades now at the very least, in the UK, certainly, but possibly across the world, say the following thing. Prisons nowadays are like holiday camps, aren't they? Prisons are like holiday. People actually say prisons are like holiday camps based on the fact that you may get to play PlayStation in your cell, or have more than an hour's exercise a day, or they say jails are like holiday camps. Everyone plays beach volleyball in prison now, don't they? Everyone has a go on the water slides. Everyone eats ice cream. There's Heineken on tap 24/7. The prison guards, they're just holograms nowadays, or maybe even scarecrows, except of course where Tommy Robinson was imprisoned, because he's been forced to convert to Islam and pray for the downfall of the West. #FreeTommy. Now that's obviously a lie, but that's kind of the direction that all of his fans were going online after he was jailed. To say that his fans are misinformed and Tommy himself talks shit about what he got up to inside is an understatement. When he was released, Tommy Robinson did a big media tour and talked to pretty much everybody who is an arse, including Tucker Carlson from Fox News. Yes, that cunt. And he told Tucker that he had been spat at by other prisoners and they had thrown their own excrement at him. Now, I'm sceptical about that. I'm sceptical that Tommy Robinson had, quote, human excrement thrown at him by other prisoners. For several reasons. Number one, the effort involved, okay? Think about it. You're like, right, what do? Do I wait for Tommy to come down the corridor and then quickly pull down my trousers and pants and then shit directly into my hand, which is difficult to do on cue? I mean, if you're on a toilet, you're more relaxed, aren't you? You're just sort of reading a book, you get to the first paragraph, couple of words in, plop, 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 splash, 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 flush, 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 off you go. I mean, do wipe your ass after all of that, well, in between there otherwise, and wash your hands as well. Okay, I haven't thought that through, but you know what I'm saying, don't you? I'm saying it's difficult to shit on cue, especially if someone like a bigger boy, one of the leaders of the prison gangs, says, right, you, Ahmed, I need you to shit in your hand now. And you're like, what? We haven't discussed this. What are you talking about? Right, what is also not thought about is if you do shit in your hand, yeah, and he's not coming down the corridor, how long do you stand there with a shit in your hand? What if it's a runny shit? It's just going to go all over the floor, isn't it? You're going to have to make sure that your diet is good enough and you've had enough time since eating to shit in your hand, and just so that the sweet corn is staring at you, glistening and ready to be thrown at a racist's face, right? It's impractical, the whole situation. Although I suppose if prisons are like holiday camps, then you can go all inclusive and just eat what you want, and that's going to be a lot of shit. I suppose I haven't thought about that, so that's a valid point. But what they haven't thought of is the main thing is that your hand will really stink of shit for days afterwards. No matter how much you wash your hand, if you rub shit into it from your own anus, it's going to... Sorry if anyone's eating, by the way. I should have given you a trigger warning before we started. It's quite gross, the beginning of this section here. But, would you want to do anything else during the day with that hand that you've shat in? You could wash it a couple of times, but then you go to dinner and you're having, I don't know, chocolate mousse or something like that, and you're thinking, well, that consistency I'm looking at is similar to something I was looking at earlier, and there's this faint smell of shit coming from, say, my left hand that I shat in. He hasn't thought it through, right? What Tommy Robinson is doing is he's confusing his Category C prison, not Category A, maximum security, not Category B, semi-security, but Category C, very unlikely risk of escape is what that means. He's confusing that prison with a chimpanzee safari park, isn't he? It's a good job he didn't drive through the prison, because he wouldn't have any windscreen wipers left, Honestly, I don't want to keep going on about it, but for the purposes of this joke and the podcast episode, I will. How does the throwing of excrement work, right? Because surely you can only do it if you have literally no sense of smell, or you don't gag at the sight and the smell of your own shit in your own hand. Do you show it around to people just to show how much fibre you're getting? Oh, guys, look at the colour of this. Look at that, that's good, isn't it? Do they line up in a row with shit in their hand? Because that area's going to fucking stink, isn't it? I saw one tweet that claimed that Tommy Robinson had excrement pushed through the grates of his jail cell door, right? Now, on TV and in movies, because I've not been to prison myself, right? In TVs and movies, guards are the only ones who can access those little hatches on the jail doors that they just pull them down, little tiny hatches, and you can look into the jail cell and see if anyone's, committed suicide, or whether they're having a good old wank or anything like that, And there's another hatch underneath where you can push through food if you're not allowing them out of the jail, right? Both of those hatches are very small and only operated by guards, right? If those hatches were covered in human shit, they would smell of human shit. No guard would put his face near that, right? If you would have thought there would be external stories coming out that Tommy Robinson and his guards have got like some kind of shit related illness, and they've gone blind. I don't know how it works really, but I think what he's talking about is, ironically, a load of old shit. Now, he also said there's a supposed threat of Muslim prisoners attacking tiny Tommy Robinson. And I would have thought if that was the case, there would be a guard stationed outside Tommy's prison cell at all times, or at least in the block that he's in, so they can always have a look where his cell is. He's gone to prison. He's the most protected he's probably ever been in the last couple of years, since he's been inciting violence against Muslims and getting them very angry, possibly to cause violence towards him themselves, right? And if he's in solitary confinement, as he claims, now he wasn't, but he claims he's in solitary confinement, if he was, then the risk to his safety is reduced to literally 0%. So how can he claim that one thing, that he's under attack, and then claim the other, that he's constantly in solitary confinement, and equate the two? It doesn't. How can you be attacked if you're literally closed off from the rest of the world, Needless to say, the prison service rejected his claims. They say Mr. Yaxley-Lennon, which is his real name, was treated with the same fairness that we aim to show all prisoners. He had access to visits, television and showers, right? And it is totally false to say he was held in, quote, solitary confinement, said a prison spokesman. They said he was initially placed into the care and separation unit for less than 48 hours, which I assume is their way of saying solitary confinement, while an assessment of the risk to his safety was undertaken by prison staff. He then joined the main prison population. Literally the only shit related to his prison stay is the bullshit that comes out of his mouth, not out of anyone's arse, out of his own mouth. But it's important that he and all the other high-profile racists and bigots that we now know and see, sadly, on a daily fucking basis, like Lauren Southern, Stefan Molyneux, Brittany Petterbone, and so on and so on, it's important that they constantly play the victims, because their fans lap up those lies. It keeps their fans perpetually angry and ready to open their wallets to help their beleaguered heroes at any given moment. Whenever there's anything even slightly like them playing the victim, what would happen then is they would say, and we need your financial support. Okay? The next quote, direct quote from Tommy Robinson, is a perfect example of what I'm just talking about. Tiny Tommy told Tucker Carlson on Fox News that the Category C prison, the Category C, not maximum security, but the Category C prison had, and I quote, Guantanamo Bay conditions, and that was based on the fact that he was denied access to a TV in his prison cell. Some people will say absolutely anything in order to watch Love Island, won't they? A joke there that maybe people outside the UK won't understand, but people in the UK definitely will. Now, the online newspaper, The Independent, said the following thing. Tiny Tommy's Facebook following has increased by more than 10% to 865,000 since being jailed. But it's not all good news for Tommy, because, quote, he has received more than £20,000 in Bitcoin since he was jailed in May. Good luck spending that, Tommy. He has actually just flown away on holiday to, I believe, Tenerife. It's alleged that it's been fully funded by his supporters. So he's already coining it in. So he's drinking margaritas by the pool in Club Tropicana, where drinks are quite expensive nowadays, thanks to the weakened economy, and he can afford every single one of them. More examples of blatant lies by Tommy or his supporters to stoke up fear amongst his fans and to once again play the victim came when it was claimed by Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson, and a guy that you may have heard of called Kaylin Robertson, who is allegedly the manager of Tommy Robinson and a person connected to Lauren Southern. He went to Australia and New Zealand with her and Stefan Molyneux recently. All those people said that Tommy was being moved to Hull prison a couple of months ago, which had a, quote, 71% Muslim population. 71%. When in actual fact, it had a 7.4% Muslim population. So let's go through that again, shall we? 71% lie compared to the truth, 7.4. It's a bit of a markup there, isn't it, by the bigots? A little bit. I mean, to put that in perspective, right, the Muslim population in England alone in 2016, the last time there was a census, was 5%. So the Muslim population in Hull prison is a fraction more than the population in the entirety of England, right? Where do these bigots magic these numbers up from? I mean, I just out of curiosity and for comparison purposes, I googled the Muslim population of Qatar, which is a Muslim country, and according to the CIA World Fact Book, as of 2010, an estimated 67.7% of the population in Qatar is Muslim, whilst 13.8% is Christian, another 13.8% is Hindu, and 3.1% is Buddhist. So not even a Muslim country has numbers as high as 71% Muslims. How do they think they can get away with those stats, you know? But Tommy Robinson fans have never been huge fans of facts or research, even though my research took less than 5 seconds to do. I literally googled the words Hull prison and Muslim population, and there were the results.